All right, then continuing with that numbers story, of course, then we're going to continue now to Eskom, actually, where South Africa is, of course, currently losing between 700 and 900 million rand per day, that is, due to the ongoing load shedding that has been implemented by the power utility Eskom. Then these are calculations by economist Mike Schuessler, who says this is a cost that the country can ill afford at the moment. Now, he also says that some of the generating units have yet to return to service even at this point. Eskom has been implementing stage 2 load shedding on Sunday. Load shedding was reduced to stage 1 from 11 p.m. last night up until 5 a.m. this morning. The utility says the return to service of some generation units has been delayed, and besides the delays in maintenance, it further says COVID-19 has also impacted the utility significantly, with some of its suppliers having staff that have tested positive. Now, economist Mike Schuessler says that load shedding is costing the economy dearly. The utility is expected to give an update later today.
The impact of stage 2 load shedding at the moment for us in South Africa is between 700 and 900 million a day. And that is a cost we cannot afford right now. We can catch up some of it, of course, but during a pandemic and on top of the pandemic, it is going to be very likely that South Africa is again going to see a decline in its GDP in the first quarter of this year, which will be a tremendous blow to our ability to attract investment, create jobs, and to get people fed and taxes in. It is really and truly utterly worrying.
All right, then let's get the word then from organized labor and their thoughts when it comes to this load shedding saga. Of course, they've lambasted the economy and the government really for seemingly having load shedding at a time like this through a pandemic. Just how critical and important this certainly is. COSATU spokesperson Sizwe Pamla joins us now. Sizwe, thank you so much for the time. Appreciated. Certainly a difficult time to be having load shedding, and indeed your words, you're not mincing them at all.
Well, look, we're very disappointed. This is something that we should not accept. I mean, if you look at the impact that the COVID-19 has had on this economy in the last year, we have lost plus or minus 6 million jobs. And we have all agreed that the small, medium enterprises, small businesses are the ones who are really going to pay a huge price, and that we need to give them all the necessary support. Now, we admit many of them are highly indebted, because big businesses can actually go out of the grid. They can they generate their own electricity. They have a plan B. But the small businesses, the ones that we said are going to help us to reduce unemployment, they are going to absorb people. They themselves now are faced with a situation where they are not just dealing with the fact that some of the sectors are experiencing lockdown restrictions, but also they are facing the issue of a lockdown. This is just something that we should not accept. We have been having these discussions. We agree and understand that COVID-19 is also impacting Eskom negatively. But the question that we have to ask is, what measures have been put in place to avoid this scenario? Because it can't be that we talk about the second wave, and then Eskom is sitting there not thinking about the second wave. Because they should have planned around this. They should have anticipated some of the problems. They've had a couple of months to think about this, to look at the different scenarios. The fact that all they do now is to throw COVID-19 at us is something that we should not accept, because it means someone somewhere has failed to really prepare, and people are not being held accountable.
Yeah. Sizwe, have you gotten any word then from perhaps Eskom, the leadership therein and thereabouts, as to whether they had any contingency plans? I mean, something like this is something that now happens more often than not. So contingency plans should actually be a thing for Eskom. Have you gotten any word from them with regards to that?
No, they haven't actually been communicating anything except to just give us the schedules of load shedding as if it's something that we should accept without question. I mean, at a political level, we haven't had anyone coming out to explain, because we have a serious crisis here. This is something that needs to be treated as an urgent matter. The fact that at a political level there's been silence, that on its own is worrying. But if you listen to what Eskom has been saying, Eskom isn't really explaining why are we finding ourselves in this scenario at a time, because we started to experience this last month. Why are we experiencing this when a huge portion of our economy has been under lockdown because of festive season, not because of COVID-19? I mean, many of the big consumers of electricity, some of them have not been operating at full capacity because of festive season lockdown. The fact that for the second year running, because this is what we experienced in the fourth quarter of 2019, for the second year running, Eskom is unable to really do the basics, the fundamentals here of just keeping the lights on when the economy is operating at something like 70 to 60% capacity. It's something that is scandalous, and it's something that we should not just accept because we're lowering standards here. We have all given Eskom all the necessary support. We understand what they are dealing with, but people also need to really start to deliver, because just throwing around excuses is not going to do us any favors. We have a budget speech in a few weeks' time. Where is the money going to come from? And 9 out of 10, you can bet that Eskom will be expecting that budget to say something about resources being sent their way. Where is that money going to come from if they themselves are not assisting in keeping this economy running?
Yeah, where would you like things to go to from here then? I mean, have you made your grievances known to Eskom, to Parliament, to all the necessary stakeholders, I suppose, in this regard, including the Department of Public Enterprises?
Well, at the policy level and at the political level, we need to get some explanation. We need to be told what is it that is happening here, because we are sitting there at Network, we're talking about economic recovery plans, we're talking about investment resolutions and commitments, investment conference and summit resolutions and outcomes. And all of this is redundant talk, because we are trying to convince people, we're trying to be constructive partners in a program to resuscitate the economy, to make sure that we remove the obstacles. But Eskom is the biggest obstacle. It is an albatross around all of those commitments. So it makes it very difficult to keep having these kinds of talks and conversations when you know that on the ground there is no reliable electricity supply. So whatever it is that you are talking about is not going to be implemented, because without a reliable electricity supply, none of the stuff we're talking about will ever materialize.
Yeah, and it certainly will slow down the country's economic growth at any stretch of the imagination. If we hoped for a speedy recovery, that's certainly not going to happen now. But Sizwe, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much there. Sizwe Pamla is the spokesperson there of COSATU, joining us then as we get to grips perhaps with the load shedding saga in South Africa, which continues, of course. Eskom yesterday deciding that from 11 o'clock they would decrease it to around stage 1 and then stage 2 from this morning, and it continues. We'll certainly see how long that lasts for. Generation capacity unable to keep going.